Hey, let's bring in our next guest, Bob Schultz, Restoring Freedom Ministries. How's it going, Bob?
Good. How are you?
Tell me about Restoring Freedom Ministries.
It was birthed about 2.5 years ago out of brokenness in my own life, divorce, struggle with addiction. And what it is we've created a community of men. It started out with just 3 of us, and it's just grown. We've got 30, 35 guys now that come every week, and basically it's just the common denominator is brokenness in our life and finding that freedom in God, finding that peace and contentment in Him instead of being our own God and, seeing what the world has to offer,
So you're finding these broken men.
They're finding us.
They're finding you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there?
There's a ton.
Yeah? Broken from many different things, right?
Many different things. For me, I lived a life of depravity for a long time, just seeking whatever I could, kind of hedonistic lifestyle, you name it, real self-absorbed, real broken.
While you were married?
Yeah.
While you were married, you lived like that?
Definitely.
You were married, but you were still out partying?
Well, in the beginning I was with my wife. And
with her?
No, separate
from her.
And then her heart got hard in the process, and then I kind of got my life on a good path, not so self-centered, more family involved, and then by that time though it was too late. She had already built up the walls and got to the point of going off in her own direction. But out of this, we
she have addiction going on too?
No, hers was more infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
And then
because you weren't around?
In the beginning I wasn't, and then the bitterness set in, and then I was there, but it was too late, and that's a lot of times what happens.
That hurts, huh?
It does, but what, I was thinking about Nelson Mandela, about how in his life he talks about that bitterness is like swallowing poison thinking you're going to hurt the other person. In reality that's what happens until we're able to let go of these things and forgive and move on. She's forgiven me, I've forgiven her, and her fiance is actually has been part of our ministry in the past. So,
okay,
that's the grace of God that comes in.
So, were you not following God before?
I wasn't a believer.
And then when you were so broken, you said,
God help me.
Right?
That's what
right.
it is.
God help me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, hey, God help me, God help. Then they get the help, and then all of a sudden, hey, I'm fixed, let me go back to the old ways again.
That happens a lot. But it's just realizing, I think either we either become our God or we humbly submit to God. That's what it really comes down to, I think. At least in my life, that's the way it was. And before, I was my own God. And now I've experienced the grace of God in my life, and I know where my life is rooted, and I've never experienced so much peace and joy and contentment in my life. And to be at the point where you can forgive all the stuff that's done for you, and also the stuff that you've done. You forgive yourself and move on, into a life of freedom instead of bondage.
Talk about someone when they come to you, Bob, someone that's broken.
How it works with us is it's not really, we meet at a church, we meet at New Harvest Church, and what's happened is one guy will just know a friend that's struggling, going through either an addiction issue, whether pornography, alcohol, drug addiction, or
all the above,
and going through a nasty divorce, and there's,
is there any other kind?
Right, no doubt. I've seen the gamut, but then we come in, and our motto is it's okay to not be okay. A lot of times when people go through the doors of a church, they feel like I got to clean myself up first, and that's the message of Christ is the exact opposite. He loves the broken. He loves people right where they are. There's a guy named Brennan Manning who wrote a book called The Ragamuffin Gospel, and the premise of that is God loves you as you are, not as you should be, because we will never be as we should be. It's a process in life, and my view of God back then was like, I had done so many bad things in my life. I thought, man, He can't love me, but now I know that He does, and out of that, a lot of times we think of, with people with addiction, it's always, I need to change my behavior, right? Well, behavior modification works for a while, right? But it's based in fear. Like if I don't do this, then my life's going to fall apart. So it's based in fear rather than in the love of God. Once the heart's changed, then the behavior changes. And we get it backwards. We focus on behavior first. Let's change this behavior. And then, you see what I'm saying? But then what happens is you can do it for a while, but what happens when the emotions go down? Then you go back to the old behavior.
Are big, tough men, are they afraid to give in to God? Are they afraid to verbally say it out loud in front of people?
What's amazing is it's kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And it's amazing because I never thought that this really could happen the way it is. But, you give a format where guys can come and they can be themselves and not be judged, be loved and accepted where they are. And a lot of times I think that's the issue that people have with an organized church is that they feel like that, that Christian veneer, like you got to pretty yourself up and all that. It's not that at all. It's come as you are. Be loved and accepted where you are, and somebody's going to come alongside your struggle with you. We call each other every day. There's guys praying with each other, and they're going through something, and you're not going through it alone. Because I believe that the enemy wants us to be isolated and alone. And go through life that way instead of we're meant to be.
Because you're easier to manipulate
totally,
like that?
Totally. At least in my life, that's the way it was. Because whenever I'd fail, I'd go into isolation. And that's kind of a common theme with people is they go into isolation because of shame and guilt or whatever it is in their life that keeps them from that.
It's funny that you think broken people, and you think you see the bum on Skid Row, but man, there's a lot of people out there with a fake smile on that are broken, isn't there?
Amen.
Aren't there?
Totally. I think a lot of times. See, I do a homeless ministry down in Bakersfield also, and there's so much more genuineness in that, because there's that need, and I think that's. When people have money and they have things that they can fall behind, that's the difference of it's need. When you're in need, you're a lot more transparent and honest with what's going on in your life. A lot of times when you can hide behind things, you stay in bondage. So the idea is brokenness is, right before deliverance comes desperation. Out of desperation, you can be delivered from that bondage.
We're running out of time for this segment. We'll run your video in the next one. But why don't you tell people out there how they can get a hold of you?
We meet at, you can call my number. It's 559-472-8817. I'm actually in the process, I'm back in school going for my master's in Christian counseling. If I'm there, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives through me. So my whole life is about giving and loving people right where they are, so you can call me anytime. We meet at New Harvest Church on Tuesday nights. We got a guy that cooks every Tuesday night, and we kind of socialize in the beginning, and then we have either a message or a testimony, and then we just talk about our lives. And we meet at 645 at 698 East Minnewawa at New Harvest Church in our little church office. And I said Tuesday night. Yeah, 6:45. All right.
Bob,
thank you.
Great talking with you.
Nice talking
Thanks
to
for what you're doing for the men in the valley. Hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Stick around.